So I haven't made a video in a while because my old computer just did not want to do YouTube videos. The microphone didn't work, and buying a microphone didn't fix the problem. And so now I have a new computer. And quite frankly, I need a break from reading this book, The Rise of Writing, Redefining Math Literacy by Deborah Brandt. This is part of one of my assignments. I'm to read a book from the suggestion of a professor that is from the field they work in. What's very interesting is that I'm reading about writing, where it seems like most of the central idea is around how our culture centers so much around reading and does not regard writing in the same manner. Writing's often dismissed, it seems like, which I can attest to when my friends have asked me what I'm doing, and I'm like, I'm writing, and they'll like, oh, cool, so I'll come over. You're obviously doing nothing. And I'm like, what? No, I'm writing. Like, that means leave me alone. What's wrong with you? Oh, you're not a writer. You don't understand. Of which they talk about in this book as well, is that other writers really get each other on a level that people who don't write can't. I've even had this issue with my boyfriend and my daughter, where when I'm doing homework, they'll give me a half an hour and be like, oh, do you need a break? What's going on? I'm like, what? I'm an English major. Like, a half an hour, like, barely gets me through a chapter. Like, are you kidding me? I need days to hours. Leave me alone. But with that said, this book kind of covers a general background of writing, covers writing in the state, writing as far as a youth perspective, and going through the different times and technologies that have encompassed what writing is. And now I am procrastinating reading about when everybody writes, is what the chapter's called. It's weird because it basically talks about how we are told to read so much, and reading is highly regarded and writing is not. So it's very interesting for me to be reading a book about writing and how much reading is regarded and writing is not, and then I'm going to have to write about this. So it's just got this reading, writing loop thing going on. And I have mixed feelings on the matter. It's kind of how I feel about math. Like, our culture shoves math down your throat. Like, I've never used anything except basic math. Anything. And I've had so much math crammed down my throat, and my brain just doesn't work that way. That doesn't mean that I'm not smart. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid. It just means that my brain doesn't work that way. I know plenty of people who are amazing at math and can't string together two sentences. And it's just depends on what you want to do in life, really. But as far as writing goes, this book, like, it makes me not even want to write the paper on the book, because it's like, oh, well, you're telling me that I have to write in this certain way about what I read in this book, but yet this book talks about all different kinds of writing and how people have been inspired or not due to reading and writing in comparison with other people, and how, depending on what your job is, you have to talk differently, think differently, act differently, and I mean, everything in it obviously is centered around writing. And I'm torn, because I thought that it would be a more interesting book, and I'm just bogged down by it. Like, it's like I don't care, but some things are interesting, and the way that it's written, it was all through interviews, and so she's going back and forth, like, with a ton of quotes about, oh, this is what this person thought and this person thought, and here's how they were on this hand, but then I had this other group on this hand, and these are all of their quotes, and now these are all of their quotes, and some are the same, and some are different, and some are completely out of the blue, like I would have a third hand that only had maybe 2 fingers on it instead of 5. I don't know. But I don't know, I'm kind of over it. And I guess this is what the book is talking about a little bit more, is that there are some people who I am like, I guess, that prefer to write, blog, talk, instead of reading. Even at that, if they do like reading, they just, write maybe 70-80% and read 20-30%. And I'm definitely that person, so it's very frustrating being a student and having to read all of these things that I'm not necessarily interested in because my class options are so limited, so I'm kind of stuck learning whatever they have to offer, so it may not be things that particularly interest me, which is good and bad. I mean, there are some things that, I wouldn't have cared about, but because I was forced to read it, I came to like it, or I came to find what I don't want to write like, or, there's that one quote you can use for a paper because of it. But man, at the end of the day, like, if I'm getting B's in grad school, working full-time and going to grad school full-time, daughter, boyfriend, life, eye issues, scratch cornea. That could only happen to me in my first semester. Swear to God. Whatever. Makes reading and writing kind of tough. But if I can do this well, reading stuff I really don't care for and kind of have to drag my feet through it, imagine what I could be doing if I were reading stuff that like really, really interested me. I mean, that's what happened with Frankenstein. Oh, like I'm a prolific Frankenstein scholar. Oh my God, like I can't read enough about it. Watch the movies, like, oh, I love it. I love talking about it. And that's so much more enjoyable. But the only sucky part about writing a book review is that, I kind of don't get to write my own opinions about it necessarily. It's I'm kind of writing like a summary of the book. And man, I would love to kind of write a counter to this and do my own studying of what I think the rise of writing is and all that, because I don't necessarily agree with some of what's said in here and how it's put together. But, it is what it is, and I've got to get back to reading. So if you want to read about the rise of writing, redefining mass literacy, go ahead and order yourself a copy of Deborah Brandt, and let me know what you think of it. Hopefully I get an A.